Medyo nangangapa, sir.
Okay. So that's okay now since we also have this recorded naman. So more practice pa daw. Okay. So that's good since as you go on or as you use the Laravel framework, so habang tumatagal mas naiintindihan niyo yung process of how or workflow of the Laravel development. So okay lang sa simula hindi talaga nagsisimula sa expert level. So nagsisimula talaga sa um, newbie. So okay, so let's continue now to our topic. So always resources natin is the Laravel documentation. So so now we're through with the routing. So let's I think proceed with the next topic with our overall Laravel flow. So in our discussion, so or we've discussed the topics, also the MVC architecture. So going back to the MVC architecture, so let me open this one. Okay, so we're through with the routing, controller, and view since all of you or yesterday we've discussed this routing and controller and view relationship or how they relate and interact, especially with the views. So if you have errors, or bugs as you develop your application, then always remember that the documentation of the Laravel contains the resources or necessary resources for you to solve most of your problems related to Laravel. But if not, then you can freely search it in the internet. So the recommended websites are the Laracast or some of the major community also in the Stack Overflow. So that's where you can find the answers if you encounter an error while developing your Laravel application. So now let's proceed to our next topic, which is first let's open our Laravel application. So opening a command prompt, navigating to our project. So change directory to the project, then opening the VS Code. Okay. Okay, so this is our previous lectures. So for now, we will be discussing the migrations. Since we're through with the routing and controllers, so let's proceed now to the database and migrations. Okay. Excuse me for that. Okay, so um, so open your your SAMP control panel and make sure that this that the application or the SAMP control panel is in the administrator privilege. So when you open the SAMP, then make sure that you have clicked this run as administrator option so that you may avoid errors. So let's proceed to our PHP My Admin. So now we will create a new database for us to have our migration files. Okay. So okay, so we'll um, click new, then the database name. So we will name this one DOST Laravel DB na lang. Okay, so let's copy this one. So hit the create button. So now we have created this database. So for now, it's empty, and we will leave it as it is. We'll leave it as an empty database for now. And that database name, we will be adding that one in our environment variables or the .env file. So as you can see, we have these configurations in this .env file. So we have this app name. So I think we will change this one. So let's change this one to DOST Laravel seminar. And so if you are going to supply string or characters, values that contains space, then make sure that you will enclose that one um, in a double quotes for you to for the Laravel or for the Laravel interpreter to understand the value. So the same with the database, since we've created a database in our PageMay admin and the name is DOST Laravel DB. So, okay, so it's correct. And since we didn't set, in my case, I don't have a password for my database. So I will leave it blank. But if in your case, you have your password or you have set your password in your database, then um, just make just make sure to include that one in your DB password. And also for the DB username, if you modified your password from root to anything or any username that you have that you set for your PHP or for your PHP My admin, then just make sure to include or to configure it in the in this property. Okay, so I think that's all for the env configuration. So once you've hit the save, then okay, so we have here a question. So sir, question lang po, safe po ba maglagay ng DB password sa env? Yes po, that is the recommended way of doing it using that env. So since ang hindi po safe is yung i-apply mo or ilagay mo po directly sa .php po na file. So yan po yung hindi safe. Sir, yung app key, ano po yun, sir? Auto-generated. Yes po, auto-generated po yan whenever you will install your Laravel application. So kung wala po yan, may command po na ginagamit for generating the app key po. Okay? So okay, so let's have an example po. So I see SAM 3. So here is my SAM installation. So for example, htdocs. Okay, so I have here the seminar last time. My code for the for my previous seminars. So for example, if the user can, or if a user or an attacker can have or can access my code base. So for example lang. So in this case, so this is a Laravel project, and you can see that the env is in here also with the inside of this Laravel application. So in that case, so if since again this file or this project is stored in the htdoc, so we can access this one using our 8080. So the name is the seminar 1. Okay. So as you can see, if even we viewed all of the files for the Laravel project, but the .env file doesn't exist for this access, which means that the .env file is very secure for, or as a defense for you to secure all of the configuration or the necessary credentials that you need um, to protect against attackers. Okay, so that is the advantage of using that env. Okay, and also most of the my colleagues or my classmates in masters have recommended using that env he since they are into industry and they have developed many applications with their clients, so they are always recommending to use that env po. Okay, so did I answer your question po ba? Okay, so let's continue with our topic. So after we've set our credentials for the database and username, so make sure that your file was saved for the .env file. And now let's use the serve. So PHP artisan serve, artisan serve. Okay, so we can now copy this one as our link. And we'll open this one. Okay. So I have here an error. Null blade. Okay, so since we've configured the let's pages. Okay, so okay, so since our application is running perfectly, so let's open the documentation for our migrations. Okay, so we have here creating tables. So for the migrations, we will create. So it is a definition of our database table. So here there are things that we can do with the migrations. So in the database migration documentation, so we have here the generating migrations, migration structure, so on and so forth. But in our case, we will be using artisan command. So we will create or have this command to create automatically the migration file, the controller, and as well as their controller resource. So I will be discussing that one also. Um, So let's open our command prompt. So let's generate a controller. No, let's generate a model. So PHP artisan, make model, post, and we will use the -m. So PHP artisan, make model, -m, and we will also generate an equivalent controller for the post and also for the resource of that controller. So mcr. Okay, so let's hit the enter key.
Sir,
Yes po.
sir, okay lang kung palaki ng konti yung font ng command prompt.
Okay po. Okay.
Thank you po.
Okay, so we will wait until this command will, or the the creation of our controller, since right now the created or the model was created successfully. So created migrations, then we will just wait for the controller to finish its execution.
Sir, ano po meaning ng MCR?
Yun po yung sinabi ko, sir, na for in this command po, we are creating a model. And the M, which means we are creating the equivalent migration file for the model post, and the C is which means we are creating the equivalent controller for the post, and the R, which means we are creating the default, or we are trying to generate the default methods for our controller po, sir. So later po, once that the controller created successfully. So ito po yung resources or yung R. So once you'll include that one in your flag, in your command. So ito po, may default or generated code po yung controller natin. So we have index, method, create, store, show, edit, update, destroy. So ito po yung tinatawag na resource for the controller. So if you will not include the R po, so same sa ginawa natin sa pages controller yesterday, is ang lahat ng contents or methods sa ating controller is yung so empty lang yung pages controller po. But if we use the R, then there will be default methods that will be generated in our controller po.
Pero sir, yung post, ano lang siya? Name lang siya.
For the controller po,
Oo.
yes po. And also po, we have this model po na post. So this model po, going back to the Laravel architecture. So yung may access po sa database natin is the model. So right now, since the model itself is a class lang, so for it to have its tables, its equivalent table structure, so we will have to define our migration file. So ito po yung na-generate na migration file, yung -m or yung M na letter for the post. So okay po ba, sir? So we have this
Ako sir.
table structure, we have this models. So if you remember, sir, we've created the classes. I think on the first day of our seminar, so we've created classes. So that is what will happen in our our database access. So all of the rows will be treated as an object. So all of the rows in our database table will be treated as object. Instance of whether it is a user or a post. So let's now proceed to the structure of our table. So first, um, let's modify the user since we will be using this one. So the name. So at least let's modify this one and we'll use first name. Last name and table string avatar. The default will be default.png. So table text bio nullable. Then table string email. No, so we have the email already. Okay, so we've added a few columns from the default structure of our migration. So we have first name, last name, avatar. So if this avatar will have a null value, then it will use this default as its value. Then for the bio, so we'll be using this one. Also, an email verified at password, remember token, and timestamp. Okay, so um, all of these columns will be created automatically once we generate or once we use our artisan command. But for us, the reference of this creation or table creation is in here in our Laravel documentation. So we have here the creating tables for the columns and so on. Okay. So we have available many available columns for our Laravel migration. So we have these big increments. So for example, the string. So a string is, for example, the string method creates a variable character equivalent column of the given length. So if we are going to place a specific integer after the name of that column, then that is the length that will serve as the length of our variable character. But if we since in our declaration we did not define our length for our string, then I think the default of Laravel is 191. Okay, so the next for the string, so let's try the text. So let's open the text. Okay, so the text method creates a text. So it is a column, but its data type is text in the MySQL or the SQL. So the text, and also let's open the uh, the nullable. Okay, let's try the nullable. Okay. Okay, so nullable is just a method that allows us to set our column to have null values. Okay, so everything that we need to understand or everything that is related to the migration are in here in the Laravel documentation. So I will be sending this one in the chat box. Okay, so you have there the link for you to open it in your local machines. Okay, so right now let's finish our table declaration. So the next, okay, so the next table that we will configure is the post table. So in this post table, we will have first a foreign key table, then foreign ID. So let's have user ID. So table string title. So table string body. Now I think we will use text for this column. Table. Okay, that's all for this. Okay, so after we've created our post, so we will now define the relationship between the post and the user. So let's have table foreign user ID, so which is our foreign ID references. So I think let's visit the documentation for this relationship. References. Okay. So table foreign user ID references ID on users. Okay, so references ID on users. Okay, so which means we are establishing connection for our foreign key. So since we have this foreign key and we must tell the MySQL that this foreign key is from the users table. Okay. So right now, let's try running the migrate command. So PHP artisan migrate. Okay. So in my case, the migration table created successfully. So let's open the PHP my admin, and here let's reload this file. So we have here these tables that the Laravel generated after we execute the Laravel command. So if we click the designer, so we can now see the users table and as well as the post. Okay. So do we have any questions from the participants?
Sir, question po.
Apo.
Sir, do we run the migrate command every time may changes tayo kahit sa isang file lang sa'yo, no? Sa
Yes po, sir.
migration.
Yes po, sir. It's
Okay.
for it to for the Laravel application to update the database po.
Na-update niya po as one, sir. Okay, salamat.
Yes po. For example, may change ka na column, then you need to run the artisan command po or the migration command.
Okay,
Okay, so any more questions pa po from the participants?
Sir, okay lang pabalik ng screen dun sa, sa may post.
Okay po, okay po.
Tapos sir, kasi na-mention nyo kanina, parang dapat i-declare namin na na nullable pag gusto namin kung mag-null values. Pag po ba
Yes
hindi
po.
naglagay nun sir, magkaka-error ba dun sa sa
Ano,
specific na field?
sir, pag hindi po naglagay ng null,
Apo.
nullable,
Kunyari po yung
yes,
hindi ko siya lagyan ng nullable. Magkaka-problem ba?
yes, sir. The Laravel will check it, sir, and there will be errors po, sir, especially sa validation na aspect.
Sige po. Thank you po.
Okay po. Okay, so we have question here. Sir, hindi ba easier to update the model file na lang instead directly editing the migration file and regenerate the migration file again? May functionality po ba yung Laravel na ganun? Hindi po. Ganito po yan. So the migration and models are not the same. So ang ganito po yan. Pag models, meaning it is just a blueprint po of our data. So it is our reference po from our data or same from the MVC architecture. So it is our reference to our database. But the structure itself po is we can only define that one in the migrations. So we can, yes po, pwede po nating ma-update ang ating model, but ang functionalities lang po talaga is related for accessing or creating or updating our data that is stored in the database. But for the data definition language or our creation of the tables or updating of our tables, then nasa migration files po yan lahat. So, okay po ba? Did I answer your question po? Okay, thank you. So, any more questions pa po from the participants?
Sir, parang lang po. Hello, sir.
Opo, sige po.
Sir, tanong lang po. Diyan po ba sa migration, pwede kang mag-declare ng type ng relationship?
Yes po. Even complex relationship po. For example, you have 5 or at least 5 foreign key, then you can declare them po in here sa foreign key. As long as you have your database po na na-create na po.
Ma-declare mo rin po ba, sir, kung 1 is to many or many is to many magiging relationship nila?
If you are referring to the relationship po, to the so ito po is for the establishing relationship with our MySQL. Okay, so here with this example po, so with the 1:1, so nakadepende lang po talaga yan sa ating design ng ating database. Since the Laravel itself or the Laravel compiler doesn't really have this functionality to know your database design. So ikaw lang po talaga yung mag-set of what relationship that you will create based from your migration files or your folders. Migration files or your tables. Okay? So we have suggestion in here. So sir, sample naman po ng pag-update ng column. Okay. So for the updating and deleting, so ito po yan. So in this example po this is in the Laravel documentation. So I will send the link po. So in this example po is so this is an example of creating or updating a method or updating your existing table. Okay. Sample, let's define a user ID column to post. Okay. So meaning hindi na po create yung ginamit, kundi yung kung hindi table lang po yung ginamit. So it is a clear example po of how to use the update using migrations. So if that's kung gusto niyo po mag-update, then the recommended way of doing it is you will generate your PHP artisan make migration, then you will name that migration. So updating the user or adding a column column to post table. Okay, so in this case, ang nangyayari is ginamit niya is the table. So now we have this generated migration file. So I will just use this one, yung sa ating post schema as our reference for updating our table. So I'll just copy this one. So sa app, okay. So we will use the post. We will not update the user ID. So I think let's add a new column. So let's add a new column. Table. Let's have a slug. String, then slug. So it's just a URL for so okay, so slug, then nullable. Okay, so save. Okay, so let's run the artisan command. So PHP artisan make okay, so let's reload our PHP my admin. Okay, so as you can see in our table, so let's zoom it. So in our table post, so we've created this column slug, since we've created or we updated that one in the new migration that we added in our migration files. Okay, so did I answer your question po ba? And all of the reference po is andito lang sa Laravel documentation.
Hello, sir.
Hello po.
Pwede po pabalik sa CMG, sir.
Ay,
Then
okay
may
po.
question po ata, sir, dyan.
Okay, so here's the command prompt po. Okay, so question po. So may question ba po ba from the participants?
Sir, dyan, may question kayo.
Ay, okay na po ako, sir. Okay na po.
Hello po, sir. How about po yung pag-delete po ng column? Say, for example, nagkamali. Thank you.
Okay, so for deleting a column po. Okay, so let's open. Dropping foreign keys. Okay. So wait. Column in. So let me scan. Okay, so for that, let's create a new migration file. So PHP artisan, make migration deleting a column in post table. Okay. So since we're using this one, our reference, then I think wait, let's analyze. We're deleting. I think we'll delete this one. Okay. Since we've created, so let's use first the conditional, and let's use the condition. So if schema has column, then post and body. No, body. Yung slug lang yung ating i-delete. Slug post, then slug. So schema, table, post, function, to print. So may blueprint ba sa taas? Okay, blueprint, table. So table, drop, column, then the slug. Okay, so expecting. Yun. So let's run the artisan command. Okay, so now let's reload our page with admin. Okay, so right now po is na-delete na po yung slug na column. Okay, so did I answer your question po ba? Hello? Okay, so we have the follow-up question, no? So ano po mangyayari pag sa PHP may admin dinelete yung slug column? Also, are we allowed to delete a migration? How? So, okay lang naman po if forcibly delete mo yung column in the PHP may admin, but it's not very recommended in Laravel workflow. since in Laravel they have or they created this migration strategy for the developers or to developers that wants to have a backup of their database, since sometimes, especially in deployment, mas madali talaga pag isa lang or in one command lang generated na lahat ng ating database. Okay, you are allowed naman, but make sure that you or the developer knows how to handle errors that may encounter as along the way as you develop your Laravel application. Hindi naman po bawal if you are going to forcefully delete or structure your database in the PHP may admin po. But it's not recommended po. But if you are or if you have the knowledge po to handle the errors that may occur, then that's okay naman po.
Ay, sir, follow up.
Sige po, question po.
How about, sir, yung remove ng may foreign key constraint using migration?
Okay, so removing foreign key constraint. So I think we have it in this dropping columns. Drop, delete. So we have it in here. I think okay, dropping foreign keys. So this is how we drop po. Just okay, using the foreign key suffix. So post user ID. So for example, since we've created, sige, let's try na lang po. PHP. Wait lang po. PHP artisan. Make, migrate. Then we will use the so ito po pala lahat ng pwede natin ma-create using PHP artisan make. PHP artisan make migration dropping a column. A foreign key in post table. Okay, so for us to drop our foreign, then so there are two ways now. So we have first the post user ID, then underscore foreign, or we can directly drop the foreign in our schema. So for us to use that one, then sige. Dropping foreign key in post table. So has user ID, then post drop foreign user ID. I think we must execute our artisan migrate. Oops. So we have syntax access violation. So user ID, can't drop foreign key. Syntax error violation, can't drop foreign key, user ID. Check that it exists. Alter table post, drop foreign key. User ID. Okay, so I think let's try. User ID, foreign ID. Post user ID, drop foreign. So I think, did I make? Oh, okay, so we forgot to just copy this one. Let's rerun our migration. Ayun. So okay. So now our user and post. Okay, so their relationship is now removed. Okay? So hindi na po sila connected. Okay, so we have sir, we have questions here now. Sir, Laravel migration po possible din po ba mag-declare ng SQL cascade? Yes po, possible po na mag-create or mag-declare ng SQL cascade. So, I recommend po sa lahat ng most of your questions po is or can be answered here in or will be answered here in Laravel documentation. There are a lot of things no that we can understand or we can do if you will navigate to this documentation po. So we have here all of the topics that are fundamental. So like what we did, that we have constraints for an ID, how to set the constraints and to cascade, to turn on the cascade on update and on delete. Okay, so we have this cascade on update, restrict on update, then all of the methods available for us. So null on update, null on delete, and so on. Okay, so next question. So since we have a migration file po that deletes slug column, if I create po ba a slug column again, need ko ba i-delete yung nag-create na migration that deletes the slug column? So since this is the demonstration naman, then there's no need po to delete the previously created since yung process niya is, for example, if that's the case in a real world development po, hindi po talaga recommended na mag-delete ng migration file. Okay? But again, the same po sa mga sinasabi ko, that everything that you will do in your application, so you must have or you must foresee the errors that you may encounter as you develop your application. Since again, in our actions, we have these consequences. So if you are not aware of the consequences of your actions, then possible that as you develop your application, if you are not, if you didn't or establish your solid database or database design before you develop your application, then that will likely happen. So your application may have redundant migration files. So as a tip, you should have this basic or at least established ERD or Entity Relationship Design before you use the migration. Though for you to yung if gusto mo lang talaga na hindi marami yung migration file mo, then at least have your structured database relational database po na design for you to have a minimal number of migration files. Okay, sir, nakapag-try na po kayo ng Laravel pag-call ng database. How do we implement it using Laravel? Okay, so in my experience, I don't have wala pa po akong experience of using database, but we can search that one right now po if it's okay. But I think the time constraints with the topics that I prepared, I think mahuhuli na po tayo. So okay lang po ba na i-search natin or we will proceed to the topic po? Okay? So let's have at least a few let's search na lang po para for the sake of others na gusto pong Okay, so I forwarded the link to everyone for you to see these resources of how to use multiple database connection po. Okay? So, let's proceed now to our topic. Since we have since we have a demonstration of how to delete our migrations, I think let's delete this. Here, maybe let's rename them. Let's remove the PHP. Resource.text. Resource 1.text. So I am just renaming the files for you to have resources po. Kasi po pag i-delete ko po, wala na po kayong resources for the code that we have in the GitHub repository. Okay, so let's run the migration again. Yun. Okay, so the post and the users. So we have their relationship back. We have the so now let's proceed to our so the controllers for the post controller, let's skip for that configuration for now. So with the users, we need in the model. So for the model user, we will now update this one. So first name, since we've updated the user migration, and let's make sure that
Sir?
yes po.
Sir, so okay lang sumingit ng isa. Yung last na command na ginamit nyo, yung refresh. Anong pagkakaiba niya pag dun sa walang refresh?
ang nangyayari po sir, based sa ating ano po, sa notification sa ating command prompt. So, ginagawa po niya is niro-rollback or dinidelete po niya lahat yung content sa ating database sa MySQL. And it will run the migration again.
Pero sir, kung hindi ko naman binago yung file, okay lang na walang refresh? Kumbaga kung
Yes
yung
po.
original file.
Yes po, okay lang po.
Awesome. Thank you po. Thank you po.
Yes po. So, let's have, so the first name, so let's place it in the right side of our text editor for now. First name, last name, avatar, then bio, email, and password. Okay. Okay, so I think it's okay now for the user table, for the user model. So now let's, I think, okay, so I think it's ready for our view. So we've configured the model and as well as the migration. And now let's open, let's complete the functionality for our login. So since we have this login and as well as the register. So first, let's complete the functionality for this register. So we can open, or we can have this, or we can, so the views for that is in the views auth and okay, so register, the register.blade.php. And since we've added the name, so we will just modify this one or copy and paste, or let's have encoding type. Since we will include file uploading, so we must specify the encoding type. So multi-part form data. So the name, but let's change this one from name to first name. First name. So all of the names. First name. Last name. Or the avatar. So the input field must type. So the value of the type must be file. So I think there's no need for this autocomplete. Okay. So email address, password, confirm password, and so on. Okay, so now let's reload our view. Okay, so we have this. We have this first name, last name. No, we forgot to edit the avatar. Still last name. Avatar. Okay, so first name, last name, email address, and so on. So I think log in. Let's add a button with the let's change this to link, a anchor tag, href to route login. So let's review the route list. PHP artisan route list. So the login get show login form. Okay, so the name is login. So which means the name is correct. So btn primary. So this should be secondary. So okay, register. Okay, so after we've completed the form for our register, then let's continue to the controller. So as you can see, this form is or will submit, or the action is in register. Looking back to our route list, okay, take note that the method is post. So we will use that information to navigate our route list. So we have register, name, and the post or the request is post. So this is get or head. So this is not the register. It is just the show registration form. But the register that has a method of post is this. So which means that register controller at register. So now let's complete the functionality for the register. So let's open the register controller. So we have the name. So let's change this one, first name. So this is for the validation. Okay, so we have the validator, make. So the data that we will pass once we submit our form. So it will be stored in this variable data. So first name, last name, for the email, password, I think that's all for the input. Let's see. First name, avatar. With the avatar we forgot. So this must be the validation must be the let's use the Laravel documentation. So let's navigate to validation. Okay. Yun. Ward. Then MIMEs, PNG, GPG, and JPEG. Now let's use the max or search the max. Uh, 20. Okay, so avatar dimension width, height. I think let's open the. Okay, so in this Laravel page, so we are now in the validation. So we have the topics included in this validation are the routes, creating controller, so on and so forth. But right now we are in the creating form request. So page here. So we have this post, required, unique, then post, and so on. So the same for the email. So as you can see, we have unique users. So which means it will check if the email is unique to the data that is stored in the users table. Okay. Okay, so max. So this will be our validation for now. So let's max. So let's reload. Then we forgot. So for the next method that we will configure in the register controller is that we need to define or to update this code for the create. So we are now creating a data based from the registration details. So first, let's try submitting the form, and we will use this DIDUMP for us to view the data that was sent in the data variable. Okay, let's the first name, the last name. So email test@test.com. password, password. Okay, so the undefined name key. So error for the 71. 71. Register controller line 71. So register controller line 71. So we must first name, last name, I think we must place the DIDAM in here. So for us to avoid that error for now. So the data that was passed in our Laravel application was this. So the first name, the last name, and the email, password, the password confirmation, and the image. So we have the image stored in our data as well. So right now, let's store the data. So let's comment the DIDAM for now. Password. What else? Avatar, bio. So for the avatar, let's save. Let's have a name. Rollers. Okay, so the avatar. So since the avatar, as you can see, is a file, so there are methods available for Laravel for file handling. So let's open this one. Our Laravel documentation, let's search for the store as. Okay. So this is how we save our image to the Laravel project. Okay. So file, avatar, store as, then the name, the folder that we want our image to be saved, then the file name, and so on. Okay, so for us to get a name, get client original name. So this is the method that we will be using for us to access the name of our file that we uploaded from our form. So, and also to get the file extension. So let's try this one. File visibility extension, file extension. So let's comment, let's get the data. So the file name, we will be using the email as our file name. Data, email, then the extension, data, then avatar, extension. Okay, so let's DIDAM the file name. Okay, so now we have this email test at test.com, which means that our file will be named. So for now, gagamitin lang natin yung email as our file name, since the file name is unique in our demonstration. But for you, if you are going to develop real world or your applications na, then you can make your own naming conventions for your images. Again, this is just the demonstration, and you can try anything that you like po for your naming sa file or image. So since we have now the file name, so we can set that one as our avatar. And first, let's store this one. Data, avatar. Then store as. So let's open the documentation. So for the store as method, so we can use this folder and the name. The second argument is the name. So the folder store as avatars folder, then the file name. Okay, so let's try. Now let's use the double quotes. File name, then avatars. So let's file name. Okay, the file name, extension, then okay, so let's remove this one. Now let's dive down for now the data and see if our store as value is working perfectly. So let's reload. Okay, so store as past one, at least 2 expected. So let's separate avatars. So public avatars. Then file. Yun. So let's open our text editor and let's see if successful ba yung pag-upload natin ng file. So we have folder inside of our storage, public. So we have avatars and we have this image in our avatars folder. Okay. So which means that our upload is successful. So we can now remove this one and okay, so reload, confirm submission. Okay, so you are logged in. Okay, so questions or clarifications from the participants for the registration functionality? Hello, are you still there?
Sir, pag binak niyo yung browser, mare-retain po yung session automatic ng user.
Pag
Pag binak niyo yung yung browser.
Hindi po. In this case, babalik po siya doon sa
Oo. So yung session po niyan, pag binak mo, nawawala din. Parang ganun ba?
hindi po. Since if you are logged in na po, then you are stored na po yung session mo sa sa database sa Laravel application po.
Tapos pag in-exit po natin yung browser, tapos pumunta sa homepage, automatic siyang nakalagin.
We can try po.
Opo.
So let's try po. Close that one. Maybe let's use the Firefox since I have it in my So I have this another browser. So 1700.1 port 8000. Okay. So let's go to register. Let's use this testing testing email.com. Okay, so in this case, let's close and open the browser again. Okay, so some of the browsers po is having this functionality po to reload your closed tabs directly once you open it again. So trying to close and opening the browser again. 7. So in that case, sir, the session was retained, sir, since we are not using incognito mode for the browser.
Thank you po. Thank you po.
Okay. Okay, so we will update this one later. So any questions po based from the registration functionality? Hello, anyone?
Sir, ano lang po, curious lang po. Magsasite
Okay po.
ba kayo ng example na pag nag-register, connect siya sa mail server, tapos magsasend siya ng email?
Hindi po yan na include sa design ko po.
Ah.
But sa overview na lang po. So you can use I think here in Laravel. So may built-in po sila na package that you can use po. Mail notifications. Okay. So ito po. The mail sender. So Swift Mailer po yung you'll install po this Composer Gazelle. So Mailgun driver and so on. So you can also use Google API, sir, to forward emails also. So we have documentations with that also in the internet. So Google Laravel email. Okay, so it is using SMTP or SMT protocol. So be sending the link na lang, sir.
Thank you po, Sir
Sa,
Sam.
so you have the idea po. Okay? So now let's proceed to the ano. Log in. So we can now log in. So let's try logging out. I think we need to fix this one first, since this is redirecting to our main URL, which is in the routes. Routes. So the view. So let's review the error. So var must be type countable, null. So var1 welcome.play.php count. So the names is empty. Let's just use this solution. Okay. So the names variable is empty. Okay. So it's working perfectly now. So we can now log in using the test at, I think I forgot the email. So let's open the users. Okay. Oh. Password. Okay, so we can now log in. So as you can see in the top right corner in our navigation, so the name is not visible. It's not visible since we have to modify that one also in our view. So in our views or views folder, so we have this auth folder. And with the auth folder, so we also have these layouts, this app.play.php. So we'll modify this one since this is the root or the parent layout of all the pages for the authentication scaffolding. So let's modify this one from first name and oh, so it's not working since the string, I think let's try this approach. Okay, the last name, the first name, the last name. Okay, so which means it's working. Okay, so let's register a valid James Gosling. James then Gosling. email.com, password, register. So we have this James Gosling name in our top right side navigation. So we have now the logout, and we can also use the login, jamesgosling@email.com, password. Okay. So now let's try configuring or have at least a minimal design for our dashboard or for this login page or home page. I think there is a need for us to change the home/home. So I want that the root URI is our home. So let's modify that one in our code. Root URI. So in the web, so let's comment this one. And let's remove the home in here. And in our auth service provider, providers, auth service provider or route service provider rather. So let's remove the home keyword and let's reload this one. So it's not okay. So it's returning a not found. So now we've changed the link or URI from home/home to the root URI. So let's try logging in. jamesgosling@email.com, password. Okay, so it's working properly now. So I think let's proceed to the update of our jamesgosling@email.com, password. So Bootstrap 5 documentation. So let's use this one. Components, card. Okay. We will update the dashboard or the welcome page after we log in our account. So layouts. So log in, verify. So home.blade.php. So in this case, let's create a new folder and let's store that home inside of our folder. So let's create a folder called home. Then I move the file home to the home folder. So the home.blade.php was moved to the home folder. So status dashboard, you are logged in. So we will change this one. So call MD8 justify content center. So let's move this justify content. And let's have div call MD8. So let's have 4. Then let's use that card. Okay. So src. So for the image, since we are using the image um, for our user, then there's this command that we need to use or to run in our command prompt for us to use or to access our image here in storage. So we can use the command php artisan storage link. Okay. So again, PHP artisan storage link for us to access the images that we have in our public folder inside of our storage. So click enter. So the link has been connected to the storage link. So let's use the image. So if we navigate to the public, so we can now see the shortcut for our storage. So storage link, resources, okay. Public storage. App public, storage app public. Okay, so go back to the text editor. Let's use the auth user image, no, avatar. It was stored in the avatars. Let's reload. My home not found. Okay, since we changed that one in our so we must update also the controller. So the home controller. So it's home.home. Okay, so the image was not found. Okay, so Sun storage link. So cannot find the file specified storage link app storage. Okay, so we encountered this error. So cannot find the specified file. So I think Laravel storage. Okay, so public avatars storage app. So this is working. Good. So PHP artisan storage link has been connected. Link has been connected to the app public. But why is it that it is saying that the system cannot find the specified links has been created? So for the public Okay, let's open the no DOST Laravel. Show storage. Okay, so there is this trouble with the image access. So for now, let's no, let me push the code. Git status. No, Laravel UST Laravel. Okay. So would it be okay po to have a little break while I fix the error po that was encountered? And for you po to scan the existing code. Okay? So thank you, and I will not be disabling my my screen so that you can follow also for the things that I will do as I fix this error po. Okay, so can I ask po ba if in your case, did you put your Laravel project inside of your SAM?
Outside, sir, yung sa akin.
Outside? Okay. So the drawbacks pala if you place your Laravel project outside of your htdocs po is yun, mag-e-error yung storage link minsan. So that is very useful pa naman. So in my case, I moved the project excuse me, the project inside of the htdocs folder na, since again we can't run or we cannot execute the storage link successfully if we put the project outside. So that is the downside. So I guess some of the restrictions in my Windows 10 no, na hindi ko pa alam. So maybe I'll try exploring it later. So
Sir,
but I guess some of the participants have got it right. Tama po ba?
sir, yung sa aming mga naka-outside, may way ba na parang i-declare na lang yung path ng storage?
Meron po, but it will take some time po, since in my case different po kasi yung settings ng operating systems natin. In my case po, may ginawa po kasi ako dito na restrictions po to avoid yung mga attacks ng mga viruses and
Noted po, sir.
okay po. So for now po is recommended po to place your project inside of htdocs po, or you can move na lang po if they are in the same disk, then siguro, or they're in the same partition, mabilis lang naman po yung transfer niya. And in my okay, so may questions po ba? So I will be uploading the code. I know since I moved the project outside or inside of the htdocs, so there is a need for us to create a new repository. So wait. Oh. Okay, so since I know po, i-move nyo na lang po and make sure na hindi po siya ma-interrupt. So if they are saved in the same partition po, in my case, I only save my file in drive C. So mas mabilis lang po yung transfer rate niya if they are in the same partition but different folder. Okay? So pwede din po copy-paste pero medyo matagal po. Or if you want it po na mas mabilis, then I recommend po using compressed, or ganito po yung gawin nyo if matagal po yung transfer rate if nag-copy kayo. So highlight all of the files, then compress it using .zip or .rar. Then wait for it to finish. Then so after na-compress lahat ng file, then move that file and extract lang po. Okay, so I will be creating a new repository for this na, since na change na naman yung directory. So there's a need for us to create a new repository. Okay, so let's continue now with the discussion. Let's complete the functionality for resources, storage, resources, views, home. So avatars, storage. Okay, so it's successfully rendering our data or image. Last name, then for the bio, let's try this for now. So count. Okay. Okay, so it's not working. So len. Okay, so it's not. Let's just output the bio. Yun. So wala pang bio. Kaya we'll be having an edit functionality po. So in here, let's have an H1 display 4. Welcome. First name. Okay, so welcome, James Cosley. Okay, so the dashboard is, or the main page or the welcome page is complete. So let's create a new page for the user update. Okay, since the time is almost up, since a few minutes na lang to, so let's create it. So with the controller, let's have home controller. So public function, edit. And I think let's rename this one since we are referring to our user. So not the home. Let's rename this one to home. Name this one as user controller, not home. User. So we're having an error. Controller, problem, this file, and user controller. So we must update the route since we updated the name. So the user, change it to user. So the user, change it to user. Okay, so it's working perfectly. So let's now continue with the edit functionality. And also let's rename the view folder. So let's rename this one from home to user. User.home. Then return view user.edit. Save. And in our view, let's create inside of our user folder users. Change it from user to users. Let's create a file, edit.blade.php. So I think, okay, so let's, as a reference, we will copy the registration form for us to not type everything. So just going to reuse this one. And we'll change the few inputs. So register it must be an update. No, user user.update. Okay. So we'll be creating this one later in our web.php. So let's add, since we have the first name, let's complete the functionality for now. The value is old. Autocomplete first name. Let's remove the autocomplete. And for the value, let's have the auth data. I know, since I think it's okay to pass the authentication. So support auth. Then auth user auth. So we need to access the currently logged in user. So auth user. So we'll pass the user. User data. So we can now use the user variable, first name. Then user last name. So let's remove the autocomplete. The avatar. So I think for the first name, last name, let's have a new input field for the bio. Let's name it input. So the input for our bio is text area. Text area. No. Name must be bio. The ID is bio. then the class, then the value of this user bio. Okay, let's remove this one. We forgot to add a required. Okay, so we have now the bio, avatar, the email, and the password. Okay, password confirm. Then register and log. It's not register, it's update. So cancel. Home to home. Okay, so now we have this view already, and let's continue to register this one. Let's register this one in our route. Get user tapos edit. User.edit. So the response update. So the update. Okay. So if we will navigate, let's register also the link to the layouts.lay.php. So let's find layouts.app that lay.php. So here in a drop down, okay. So route user that edit. Okay, so let's proceed to our okay. So users that update is not defined, so it must be user that update. Yun. So I think the text area is no, it should be the row. Okay. So we have the James, Gosling, empty for email address and password. So for the email address, since it's okay to remove that one for the password. Password and password confirm. Okay. So email. Avatar. Okay. So let's remove the email also. Okay. So first name, last name. No. Good. So update. Okay. So we need to have a method update in our user controller. So let's create that one. Public function update. So data. No, since this is a post request, let's have this request variable in argument. So request validate. So this type of validation is also the implementation in on how to validate in Laravel. So let's okay. So validation input. Okay, so the same process that we did for our validation for the register. So we can use those as our resources for auth, register controller. So validate. So first is the first name is required. Then string max is 255. For the last name required string, then max 255. Avatar required minus you know. So for the avatar only. 1, 2, 3, 4, and for the bio is required. Okay, for the bio, there's no limit for the max. No, I forgot to change. Okay, so let's try with the die dump. Okay, James, Goslings. Let's have the random generated text from our VS Code. Okay, update. Oh, the image. I think we must edit the code for the image that it must not require an image. So let's remove the required for the avatar since this is the update or the edit. Okay, James Goslings. Okay, let's try. Okay, I think we have the validation for the backend, for the avatar. So, okay. Yun. James Goslings. Okay, so this is the data that we have from our input field for the edit. And let's now try to process them. So for the image, let's get the user first. User, find. So since we are using the model, again, the model is in the models folder. So the user. So we must import that one in our controller. So use app. Okay, looking to the namespace. So app/models and the name of the model. So models, then user. So using the user, find auth user, then ID, then user, first name must be equal to the first name, then first name, then data, first name, then user, last name, data, last name, user, bio, data, bio, user, avatar. So for the avatar, we must consider or check if there is a file that is in our session or in our request. So to check for that, we can use a has or has file for form. So let's open or use the search bar for the documentation. Has file. Has file. Okay, so has file. So for us to check, since our image input field is optional, So we must have this validation. If request has file avatar, then that means that the user wants to upload or change his or her avatar. So let's file name, use the email again. So the user email that data avatar extension. Okay, then data avatar store as, then public / avatars, then the file name. Then since we have dated the name of our image, then user avatar is equal to the file name. So let's save the user, then return redirect to the route user dot edit. I think let's change this one. With data with status type, whether it is a success. So in here, we will be using the class name for the alerts in Bootstrap. So I think since this is success, so we will use success, and message is equal to the user update. Okay. So now let's handle this message also in our edit.day.php. So in the card header, this field, if session status, and if so the status or the alert, div alert, then alert danger. So since we are using, or we will use the Bootstrap names, so we will integrate the session status, and since the data structure is an array, so we will access the type, and for the message, it will output the small. I think let's use small, and session message. Okay, so let's try it in our browser. So let's review if the DOM still exists. Okay, so none. Okay, so we have this message, but it's not showing. So let's review the code, since I think I've made a mistake in success with status type success session status status should be message. Okay, so it's okay po. I will push the code po. So SS. So let's try updating the image. Okay, so the user update was successful. So let's go back to our home. So the image was updated na in our user. So I will push the code po. I think since I moved the location po of the Laravel project, I will be creating a new repository for this po since yun po kasi yung downside po if we're using GitHub or SVM or the version control BSM, version control VCM, version control management system. Okay po, we'll be creating the new repository. Repository.
Sir, ano pong ginagawa niyo pag ina-update yung image? Anong ginagawa niyo doon sa dating file?
Okay. So, automatically po in PHP, so if same po sila ng name, ang ginagawa po is automatically ni-replace niya po yung older file with the currently or yung bago na file na in-upload na user. If same po sila ng name. So automatically po deleted na yung old file. Nire-replace po niya. Okay po. Okay, so for the meantime po, I will upload or create a new repository and upload the code in GitHub po. Okay, so I will be sending the link. Okay, so the code po is available na sa GitHub. You can open it po using the link that I sent in the chat box. So is it okay po ba that the remaining time will be used for you to explore the code po?
Ako, sir.
Okay, okay. So if you have questions po, dito lang po ako sa meeting.
Sir, may question lang.
Yes po.
Yung sa validation, sir, pwedeng mabalik doon sa yung sa code,
Okay po.
yung sa during update. Update ba?
Ito po.
Yan sir, yung sa taas, yung may bio, may avatar.
Opo.
Sa controller to sir, no?
Yes po. So the difference po nung sa register controller is that may dedicated function kasi siya for validator, kaya ganito yung tsura niya for validation. At isa pa, hindi din po request nanggaling yung validate. Kung hindi, the validator, this controller uses the validator po na class. It's different po from this. Kaya po, ganito yung structure niya compared to this po.
Register. So, meaning sir, every controller, pwera dyan sa register controller, every action may validation na, example, kailangan i-validate.
Yes po, if ever
lalagyan ng validation.
Yes sir, if we are handling inputs po, for security reasons po, we will at least have the validation po, especially if we are adding data in our database po.
Kasi sir, natanong ko, yung sa ginagamit naming framework kasi, yung validation is nasa model.
Okay.
O parang centralized yung andun sa model yung validation. Meron bang ganun sir, Laravel sir?
In Laravel po kasi, the model itself is just the blueprint of the data sa database. So,
okay.
Parang ganito po sir, for us to update our data na nasa data, yung na-store sa database, so we fetch that data using the model that we have. So, if you want to perform your validation, then sa controller lang po siya ginagawa.
Okay, sir. Noted.
Yun po ba yung coding nighter?
Hindi sir, sa Yi.
Okay. So I
Yi
don't
po.
have the experience po
Wala.
with that.
Okay. Thank you sir, at least malinaw. Kasi akala ko merong way din na parang ganun ang approach na nasa model yung validation.
Okay,
po,
so
sir.
we have the participant who raised his hand. Yes po, question po. No, if you have questions po, do not hesitate to unmute your mic po. So we have one participant who raised his hand. So sino po ito? You can unmute your mic po.
Sir, tanong lang po.
Yes po.
Sir, ano yung mas preferred na gamiting type ng validate? Yung,
for complex validation, sir, I recommend using this, sir. So we can also see that one in the Laravel documentation, sir. So validation, validator. So we'll search that one in here, validator. So the same. So since there are many options that we can do with the validation. So for example, if you want to, for example, here, request to get all of the data. So for the complex validation, sir, it is really recommended to use this one. But if you have just basic validations, then it's okay also to use those request validation that we did in the update po. But they are the same naman po, sir, in concept. Since I guess the Laravel using inheritance po to reuse the code for this validator class.
Salamat po, sir. Salamat.
Okay, sir. Welcome po. Okay, so anyone po na may question pa, do not hesitate po to unmute your mic. Yes po, if the same. So if ito po, hindi po ito nawawala unless hindi niyo po ginamit. So if you reload the page, then nawawala po siya after you'll reload the page. But the bad thing is, if you're going to redirect, so the recommended way po para ma-store sa session yung data is using with na method po. So did I answer the question po ba? So sa production lang po yung error. Okay. So is it with Laravel po or different framework? Okay, so okay. I think that is the settings for the platform itself, sir. Since the code yung working naman po siya during development. So if during production lang po siya mag-occur, then most probably the error is in the platform po for the web hosting platform that you're using.
Hello, sir.
Yes po.
Sir, diyan sa with yung status, pwedeng marami or single kwan lang yung sa with?
Isa lang po, pero yung ginagawa ko po so that I can pass multiple data, so I always use array po. So kaya the same po sa ginawa natin dito. So I used an array po to have type and message also. So if you're using array, pwede ka na po maglagay ng maraming data po dito.
Okay. So this one, sir, status for the success lang. So kung yung failed, pwedeng magdagdag, sir.
Yes po.
Tama
For
ba?
example dito. For example, if result. So ang mangyayari kasi, sir, dito na line, magre-return to ng true or false. So pwede mo rin yan i-check. So for error checking lang, if ever may error na mag-occur. So result. So meaning, gawin natin negation. So if return redirect. So meaning if nag-error yung pag-save ng data, then ito yung code na kanyang i-return. Route. So redirect route from the user.edit pa rin. But with different status na. Status. Gagamitin natin yung danger. Then message. So the user update failed. So ganito po, sir. So yung status na po sa notification once na redirect ka na, so danger na, meaning yung red na po yung color ng notification.
Okay, sir.
Okay
Thank you.
po. So okay, you're welcome, sir. Okay, so we still have few minutes. So is it okay po ba na we'll no na lang and we'll go directly to our lunch po and use the remaining time for you to explore the code. And we'll be back by 1 p.m. po. Okay, thank you. Have enjoy your lunch po everyone.